Elementary Science Class 6. Motion and Measurement of. Story of Transport. Maisie, have you ever wondered how people used to travel long ago?
Yes, I have. I know they used to move only on foot and carry goods on their back.
That's right. Later on, people began to use animals for transportation. They also used boats for transport through water.
I remember learning about that in school. Boats were made of simple logs of wood with a hollow cavity.
Exactly. Later, people learned to put together different pieces of wood and give shapes to the boats. These shapes imitated the shapes of the animals living in water.
That's fascinating. I also remember learning about the invention of the wheel. It made a great change in modes of transport.
Yes, and animals were used to pull carts that moved on wheels. Until the beginning of the 19th century, people still depended on animals, boats, and ships to transport them from place to place.
The invention of the steam engine led to the development of new means of transport. Railroads were made for steam engine-driven carriages and wagons. Later came automobiles such as motor cars, trucks, and buses.
Exactly. Motorized boats and ships were used as means of transport on water. The early years of 1900 saw the development of aeroplanes. These were later improved to carry passengers and goods.
Wow, that's impressive. So, what are some of the contributions of the 20th century?
Electric trains, monorail, supersonic aeroplanes, and spacecraft are some of the contributions of the 20th century.
That's amazing. It's incredible to see how transportation has evolved over time.
How wide is this desk? There are so many occasions when we come across a need to measure lengths and distances. The tailor needs to measure the length of the cloth to know if it is enough to stitch a dress. A carpenter needs to measure the height and width of a cupboard to know how much wood he would need to make its door.
And the farmer needs to know the length and breadth, or the area of his land, to know how much seed he can sow and how much water would be needed for his crops.
Exactly. And that's why it's important to measure distances and lengths accurately. Did you know that the distance between the Earth and the Moon is 238,855 miles?
Wow, that's a long way. How do scientists measure such long distances?
They use a variety of methods, including radar and laser ranging. It's fascinating to see how technology has advanced over the years to make accurate measurements possible.
It really is. How about measuring shorter distances, like the width of a desk?
There are many ways to do that too. You could use a ruler or a tape. In fact, you can also use a string to measure the width of a desk.
That's clever. I never would have thought of that. It's amazing how many different methods there are for measuring distances and lengths.
Yes, and it's important to know how to measure accurately to avoid mistakes and ensure that we get the right results. It's a skill that comes in handy in many different fields. Some measurements. Have you ever wondered why we use standard units of measurement?
Yes, it's something we learn in school, but I don't know much about it beyond that.
Well, in ancient times, people used different body parts as units of measurement, like the length of a foot or the width of a finger.
That sounds confusing. How did they know if their measurements were accurate?
Exactly. That's why scientists all over the world have accepted a set of standard units of measurement, known as the International System of Units, SI units.
What is the SI unit of length?
The SI unit of length is a meter. It's divided into 100 equal divisions called centimeters, and each centimeter has 10 equal divisions called millimeters.
That makes sense. So, we can use a standard scale and measure in SI units to get accurate measurements.
Exactly. And it's important to use standard units of measurement to ensure consistency and accuracy in our measurements.
Correct measurement of length.
Why do we use different measuring devices for different things?
Yes, it's because each device is designed for a specific purpose and is more suitable for certain measurements than others.
That's right. For example, we use a meter scale for measuring length, but we can't use it to measure the girth of a tree or the size of our chest.
Exactly. For those types of measurements, we need to use a measuring tape or another suitable device.
I read that the correct position of the eye is also important for taking accurate measurements. Is that true?
Yes, it is. Your eye must be exactly in front of the point where the measurement is to be taken.
Wow, I had no idea. What about curved lines? How do we measure those?
We can use a thread to measure the length of a curved line. We can place a knot on the thread near one of its ends and place this knot on the point A. Then stretch a little more portion of the thread along the curved line until the other end B of the curved line is reached. We can then measure the length between the knot in the beginning and the final mark on the thread to get the length of the curved line AB.
That's really interesting. I didn't know we could measure curved lines that way.
Yes, we need to take care when measuring distances and lengths to ensure we are doing it correctly. We also need some standard units and devices with which we measure these distances and can convey our results to others.
Moving things around us. Have you ever wondered about the different types of motion?
Yes, I have. I know there's rectilinear and circular motion, but what else is there?
There's also periodic motion, where an object or part of it repeats its motion after a fixed interval of time, like a pendulum or a child on a swing.
That's interesting. How do we differentiate between these types of motion?
Rectilinear motion is when an object moves along a straight line, like a vehicle on a straight road. Circular motion is when an object moves along a circular path, like the hands of a clock. And periodic motion is when an object or part of it repeats its motion after a fixed interval of time.
I see. Why is it important to learn about these types of motion?
Understanding motion is crucial to understanding the physical world around us. It helps us explain how objects move and interact with each other. For example, we can use our knowledge of motion to design safer cars or improve the performance of machines.